Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Kennedy Center and the Millennium Stage. This is our daily free performance series brought to you by Target. We are here 365 evenings a year at 6 o'clock to present the best in music, dance, theater, and more. If you are ever unable to join us in person but you'd still like to see the performance, please log on to kennedy-center.org. By joining us there, you can watch these performances live each and every single evening at 6 o'clock, and also choose from thousands of our past performances in our online on-demand archive. Now, this evening, we are pleased to be presenting this performance in cooperation with the ASCAP Foundation. This is our second night of Songwriters, The Next Generation, featuring the Andy Akiho Quartet and Celia Woodsmith and Della May. Please stay with us after the music for an artist Q&A session with host Larry Gross. And now, ladies and gentlemen, won't you please join me in welcoming the director of the ASCAP Foundation, Colleen McDonough.
Thank you, Matt. Good evening. As you McDonough, the director of the ASCAP Foundation, which is a public charity which supports music education programs across the country, and we also nurture emerging songwriters and composers. Our program tonight, Songwriters, The Next Generation, is a partnership between the ASCAP Foundation and the John F. Kennedy Center. Last night and this evening, we will be showcasing the work of talented ASCAP writer-performers from the worlds of rock, jazz, soul, and folk music right here on this beautiful Millennium Stage. Songwriters, The Next Generation, was conceived by the late Dr. Billy Taylor, the great pianist, composer, educator, who was also a board member of the ASCAP Foundation and the artistic director for jazz here at the Kennedy Center. Dr. Taylor, throughout his life, stressed the importance of showcasing the work of contemporary composers who are also performers. With us to introduce our music creator artists and to engage them in a discussion about their music is an ASCAP singer-songwriter who hosts NPR's public radio concert program, which I know you've all heard and love like I do, called Mountain Stage. He is also a prolific children's music recording artist, and in the 70s, he enjoyed a top 10 hit with his witty novelty song, Junk Food Junkie. So please help me welcome Larry Gross.
Thanks so much, and welcome everybody here to the Millennium Stage in the Kennedy Center. They do something here every day of the year. Thanks to you folks, too, for tuning in on this webcast, and I think you're going to enjoy what you're going to hear. This was set up because ASCAP wanted to showcase not only performers. We had plenty of things on television and radio, American Idol and so forth, that celebrate new young performers, but not so many that celebrate the people who write the songs and who compose the music. So they wanted to put the spotlight on them a little bit. You're going to hear two groups tonight, but each of the groups features a composer or a songwriter. And the first one is a very dynamic sound. It mixes a lot of influences: classical music, jazz music, West Indian, traditional music, all together through one man who was born down in South Carolina, studied music, got a bachelor's at University of South Carolina, then went on to get a master's degree, two master's degrees, one in contemporary performance from the Manhattan School of Music, and then one in composition from Yale. Now he's a PhD candidate at Princeton, so he lives in New Jersey at the moment, but he travels all over performing, and he's going to be back here at the Kennedy Center. I'll tell you more about that later in a few weeks. He's won a whole bunch of awards, a basket full of awards, including several ASCAP Foundation Morton Gould Young Composer Awards, and he's been commissioned to do many works by string quartets, contemporary groups of all kinds. In May, he's going out to the Los Angeles Philharmonic to do a piece with them that he wrote a while ago. And later on this year, I think in December, he's going to be with the New York Philharmonic with a piece that he won in the series they have called the Contact Series of New Music. He's brought some friends with him from New York City. Please welcome right now, if you would, Mr. Andy Akiho.
Good evening. Thank you very much for coming out tonight. I wanted to introduce the band. That piece that we played was called Hara Iro, and it means beige. And the next piece we're going to play is called Murasaki, which means purple. And the last piece we're going to do is Aka, which is red. But this is the Sam Adams on bass. Austin Walker on drums. The great Dominic Solerni from Atlanta, Georgia. Thank you very much.
Andy Kehoe. And as I said before, Andy and I believe Sam, one of the other guys, are going to be back again in a different configuration during the Cherry Blossom Festival. They're going to be playing in one of the big rooms, but you're going to have to pay money for that one in a couple of weeks. It won't be like tonight. I think they forgot to give the cherry trees the memo. They were supposed to wait a couple more weeks to come out before the festival. They're already here. If you just came in, or if you just tuned into the webcast, this is a special evening of music presented by the ASCAP Foundation. It's called Songwriters, the Next Generation, and Dr. Billy Taylor had the idea to showcase some young singers, songwriters, and as you just saw, some very, very fine composers. I was telling Andy, the fellow who really pioneered the steel drums, Ellie Manette, now lives in West Virginia, in Morgantown, West Virginia. He's part of West Virginia University percussion program there, and he was honored recently during the West Virginia Music Hall of Fame presentation. He came out and did a piece. He's really the Bill Monroe of steel drums. I don't know if he would recognize that, but that's what we're calling him. Got to have a little changeover now, because the next group is going to be very different than what you've just heard. Last night we had 2 singer-songwriters, and tonight 2 more composers, songwriters, and each one had a very distinct flavor. It's what ASCAP likes to do. So we like to do on Mountain Stage, too. My name is Larry Gross. I'm host of NPR's Mountain Stage live performance radio program, and in case you're watching somewhere where you listen to the show. Thank you. But the next group is a group of bluegrass musicians, and obviously bluegrass groups are groups, but we are going to single out the one lady who is the composer, that is the songwriter in the group. Now, a lot of them are starting to write songs. She told me they're starting to do some collaboration. But Celia Woodsmith wrote 10 songs on their last album, Della Mae's last album, and she came to the band herself from blues music. She was in a rhythm and blues duo known as Avi and Celia, and they played a lot of gigs with a lot of big-time blues people, but bluegrass has won her heart now. And they have a new record they're working on, and I can't really tell you much about that because they're about to sign with a new label, and they're not quite sure when it's coming out, and they can't really announce it. They'll be announcing that soon. But right now we're going to hear some music probably from their first album, maybe something from the new record. Here's Celia Woodsmith and Della Mae. Give them a big welcome, would you?
How y'all doing today? All right, get a little life going on in here. How about Andy Akiho? Give a big round of applause. That was incredible. We are so humbled to be on this stage in such an amazing venue. I could not have hoped for this day. But here we are with ASCAP. Thank you so much for having us. And this is Jamie Deere.
1, 2.
Sunsets at 4:04. The snow is piling at my door. Snowed in, but I don't really mind. All I needed was a little bit of time. But those letters that you wrote me in the fire, oh, and they ain't coming back. So where did you go, my Jamie dear? Sitting on the window with a single tear. Swamps and pines and leather leaves, burning like a letter that you sent to me. Where did you go, my darling May? Set like the sun on a winter's day. Cold from frost and winter pain. Bottle of whiskey and a pile of shade. Pile of shade. If I had the space for my room, there wouldn't be big enough a room. All that snow outside my door, and all I expected was a little more love from you, but I got shown the door, and I ain't coming back. So where did you go, my Jamie dear? Sitting on the window with a single tear. Swamps and pines and leather leaves, burning like a letter that you sent to me. Where did you go, my darling May? Sad like the sun on a winter's day. Cold from frost and winter pain. Bottle of whiskey and a pile of shade. Pile of shade. Come on, keep it. By the time that spring rolls around, my heart will have melted off the ground. I'll throw out the ashes from the stove, bits of your letters and things that I let go. Try to keep myself moving on the road, and I ain't coming back. So where did you go, my Jamie dear? Sitting on the window with a single tear. Swamps and pines and leather leaves, burning like the letters that you sent to me. Where did you go, my darling May? Sad like the sun on a winter's day. Cold from frost and winter pain. Bottle of whiskey and they say the living's fine. That man can wave his hand and ounce of gold in the hand. That wagon in the bright star of red light. Look down the river, the water swirling. Ain't that a lonesome sight? Look at the train tracks, no freight coming. You know you wait your whole life. Tied to a ball and chain of gold, like a golden chain of fever hits you all the time, rusts you like moonshine. Queen River took many lives, not the ones just drowned and died. Families it stopped, then the ones it drove to sing. Look down the river, the water swirling, in that lonesome side. Look at the train tracks, no freight coming. You know you wait your whole life. Look down the river, the water swirling, in that lonesome side. Look at the train tracks, no freight coming. You know you wait your whole life. Word came from up the road, Polk County is full of gold. The air's sweet, the river's low, they say the living's fine. I don't think we could have picked a better day to be flown in to Washington, D.C. It is simply gorgeous out. We came in today from Boston, which is where we call home. Courtney is actually going to the Berklee College of Music right now. This is another one of my songs called Sweet Verona. Verona left when she was only 16. She gave no reason but needing to fly. She joined up with a traveling band, and Lady Luck, she took her hand. Left all her demons behind. She wove her unabashed story all through the sun. Verona, she carried the truth of a child. She was a gypsy queen, her hair a raven sheen. Made love so strong and wild. Now they're bringing her home. Sweet Verona, she got her very own box in which to lay. Now they're bringing her home from Louisiana. And hallelujah, Lord, she's home to stay. Kept all the postcards that she sent to me. Passed through our way only once more. When Mama died, she stood just outside the church, but she was gone when I ran out the door. Now they're bringing her home. Sweet Verona, she got her very own box in which to lay. Now they're bringing her home from Louisiana. And hallelujah, Lord, she's home to stay. She died, they said they found her that way, covered in the jewels that she bought at the pawn. They say her fire burned so bright that it kept her alive, and it burned till she was gone. Now they're bringing her home, sweet Verona. She got her very own box in which to lay. Now they're bringing her home. And hallelujah, Lord, she's home to stay. And hallelujah, Lord, she's home to stay. I would like to introduce Della Mae right now, playing the double bass, Amanda Kowalski from Wheeling, West Virginia. Jenny Lynn Gardner on the mandolin from South Carolina. Kimber Ludeker on the fiddle from Washington State. And this is Courtney Hartman from Colorado on the guitar. I'm from Vermont, but I say that I'm from North Carolina sometimes just to make myself feel a little bit more southern.
She was born there.
2 years I lived there. All right, we're gonna play for you, Down to You. Driving down the road again, just settled down my mind, put her into overdrive, and I'm still keeping time to know I'm headed down that yellow line. Well, I stopped by a hiker from the road, got a good look, but you know what I told, I gotta keep on walking, I gotta find my own way through. Well, you know what I did when that sun went down, started walking at you. Well, I'm walking, I'm walking, I'm walking, I'm walking down. You gotta find your own way through. Lord, I kicked that car by fire, she could, then I'm walking down to you. I picked up my duffel bag, let the cooler in the trunk, push her off the side of the road, the keys where she gone, and I'm walking away, 'cause fill my soul with sand. Well, you know what I did when the sun went down, started walking out of you. Well, I'm walking, I'm walking, I'm walking, I'm walking down. You gotta find your own way through. Lord, I kicked that car by fire, she could.
All right, we have one more song for you tonight. And this one is called From the Bottle. A lot of these songs that are on our last album, I wrote all throughout my college years. I went to the University of Vermont. And I wrote them, and they made it on various albums, and then all of a sudden I was in a bluegrass band, and a lot of them could be tweaked and pushed and molded in certain ways, and they fit right in. And I have a lot to thank these ladies for. As Larry said, that a bluegrass band is a band, and I am really nothing without these fine ladies up here, so.
Stop it, stop it.
All right. Lights low as the fire dies, my handle on a pistol rests lonely at my side, and I'm lost now. My husband out the door, he took the children with him. He can't take it anymore. Told me he'd come home and come back again if I let the liquor go, but I can't let go of my sin, 'cause I went to the bottle and I drank that bottle dry, covered up my anger, frozen up inside, and I opened up that door. The devil came inside, lit the fuse to which my mind is tied. Oh, God, can't feel it anymore. My hand is all trembling on my schoolhouse door as I walk into her sweet air, where my heart should be a beating. I can only feel a tear, and I pray to my God above that I burn her down to get back to what I love. And I went to the bottle and I drank that bottle dry, covered up my anger, frozen up inside, and I opened up that door. The devil came inside, lit the fuse to which my mind is tied. It's dark now, I'm on my knees. I pray to my God, give me the strength I need. I got to light that match and burn her down. I got too much to live for before they put me in the ground, and I'll go back to my children's arms and watch the ashes rise and go up and meet the stars. And I'll go from the bottle and I'll leave that bottle dry, open up my anger, frozen up inside, and I'll open up that door, for the devil won't oblige. Cut the fuse to which my mind is tied, to which my mind is tied, to which my mind is tied. Thank you so very much. We are Delamay.
Celia Woodsmith and Delamay. The first record is called I Built This Heart, the one that has 10 songs written by Celia Woodsmith. From up in and around Boston, Massachusetts, Delamay. They're going to be at Delfest, by the way, if you know that great festival of bluegrass and jam music out in Maryland, done by Del McCoury. They'll be out there in May, and that's a great place to visit and hear them once again. Hear a few more tunes. So we're going to get out now, Celia Woodsmith and Andy Akiho, and talk to them just for a moment. We got a few minutes left before the hour is up, and I'd like to find out a little bit about how they write and how they compose. So let's get this figured out, and you guys come on out here. If you're here, is Andy there? Come on up, Andy. Celia, come on back out. Here they are. Here once again, Andy and Celia. Yeah. Well, let's talk to Andy first of all, and I'll ask you the question that every interviewer has asked you forever. First question, I'm sure, which is why the steel drums? How did you settle on this? You're a percussionist, obviously. You probably played other things. What drew you to the steel drums?
Mainly the timbre. Something that really caught my ear from the beginning, and I wanted to apply it in other kinds of music when I heard it.
Where did you hear it first?
I didn't hear it till I got to college at the University of South Carolina, and it just blew me away, the timbre of it.
What was the first musical instrument that you played?
I started with the drum set. My sister taught me how to play, and I was trying to be a rock drummer. That's how I started.
And your sister was a veteran rock drummer at that time.
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Well, it's interesting because obviously percussionists, some play xylophone, some play instruments that can play a lot of melodies. And you compose now. Did you start composing earlier or not until you got to college?
I feel even as a performer, I've always had composition in me, or tendencies to want to compose and to create.
Sure.
But I guess officially I started doing it more a few years ago with other instruments. But I came into composition through playing the steel pan and through improvisations on the steel pan. So even the pieces we played tonight, all of those were once steel pan solos that I mainly wrote in D.C. and then orchestrated them a few years later.
Did you study, along with composition, did you study arrangement, orchestration, and so forth? I mean, it's not the same thing playing steel drums and playing cello or violin. I know you've done things for both.
I'm still learning it now, trying to learn how to orchestrate all that kind of stuff right now.
The pieces that you're playing with the L.A. Symphony and the New York Philharmonic, are those pieces that you did solos and then someone else orchestrated them, or how did that work?
No, the LA Phil piece is 12 steel pans and a drum set made of all metal. That's a piece I wrote specifically for that ensemble. So that didn't start like that. And then the New York piece I haven't written yet, but it's...
But don't worry, it's coming. It'll be there. It doesn't need to be there until they start rehearsal.
Right,
That's
until
the way,
September, so...
That's right. That's the way all the great ones do. Well, Celia, let's move over to you for just a moment. You said a moment ago, before you did your last song, that you'd written a lot of those tunes, or a lot of tunes, before you got into this band, and we know that you were in a blues band too. What else have you been in? What other kind of music have you done?
Well, I have been okay, I'll start at the beginning here. I was a freshman at the University of Vermont, and I was playing pretty badly on a guitar at that point in one of our big greens, and this guy named Avi came out of his dorm room, and he was like, "Hey, you want to start a band?" And that became my first folk duo as a freshman in college, and I had no idea what I was doing, and he sort of taught me a lot of what I know now, just how to play guitar, how to be confident on stage, and so that folk duo carried me through college and moving to Boston after I graduated, and we dabbled here and there with bluegrass bands. I didn't really know what bluegrass was back then, and also, we started a rock and roll band in Boston, which was called Hey Mama, and I played the washboard with these amazing gloves that I made with thimbles on the end. It was like a glove you pulled on, and it was. We called it washboard rock and roll. So now I'm in a bluegrass band.
So how did the bluegrass? How did you get introduced? Was it because listening to this band, the other folks, or was it other bluegrass music?
No, it was actually through a festival. A friend of ours suggested that we go to this festival called Gray Fox in New York, upstate New York. Yes.
That's a great festival.
And I was hooked when I went there. I was actually a volunteer there for 4 years picking up trash, and I thought it was just the best festival ever. And from that, I learned of a whole new genre of people I should be listening to, and I think that festival spurred me to seek out bluegrass in Boston, and that led me to this whole sort of subculture of bluegrass players, and I think once I was sort of got into that fold, I was done for.
Well, did you go right back to the roots, to Bill Monroe and the Stanley Brothers and all those people, or were you just listening more to contemporary bluegrass groups?
I think I've always liked going right back to the roots, for sure, in blues music as well. I think right now, Delamay, I wouldn't call us a strictly bluegrass band, and I really like that. I think that we have this ability to kind of take what we've learned from the people before us, like Bill Monroe, and we have that ability to take those sort of traditional aspects and then add sort of my songwriting sensibilities to it and create something that's not strict bluegrass, but sort of makes a lot of bows to it.
So many of the young new bands and so forth for many years now have been doing newgrass and other things, mixing in contemporary songs. But then when people like Del McCoury does, Vincent Black Lightning and the whole deal, then it opens it up to a lot of other people, him being a very traditional guy.
Yeah.
But he's open to doing things like that, so it kind of welcomes everybody else
Yep.
through the door. It's some people don't realize you can take other kinds of songs and that you've done in other styles and then turn them into a bluegrass song. Is that what you did with some of those things?
Oh, yeah, that last song that we played, From the Bottle, was actually recorded on I think 2 albums ago as a rock song with a full drum kit and everything, and there are a couple other songs that I think I've converted over, but I think they work really well. I mean, music is meant to be played with and, synthesized into different things, and I think it's been a really wonderful experience taking some of those songs and seeing how they, just with little tweaks here and there, how they can become so different and really.
Well, the ASCAP knows better than anybody. A great song can be recorded by a soul artist, a country artist, a rock artist, and that makes it a great song. That right there, it's a wonderful thing. We noticed you did look at the ASCAP no banjo clause and didn't have one in your band. This is a hotbed of bluegrass music in Washington, D.C., and they didn't have a banjo. Not every bluegrass band does. But we just got a couple of minutes. I want to ask you, Andy, since you mentioned the Philharmonic piece that you haven't written yet, how do you plan to start doing that? I mean, when you start writing, do you get the pans? How do you do it?
Recently, every piece I've tried something new almost every time. So I'll either start at the pan or start at just the paper, or brainstorm at the keyboard, or it changes every piece. I don't know how I'll start this one yet, but it won't have steel pan in it. Even if I start from the steel pan.
Will you? Do you find that percussion gets the same respect that the other sections of the orchestra does at this point for somebody who's a composer?
Oh yes, definitely.
There's some great modern composers. George Crumb, for example, have been percussionists and they write pieces for the orchestra and symphonies and everything else. So you're gonna get going pretty soon?
Definitely. Yeah.
Well, our time is up. Thank you very much for being with us here in the hall, and thank you for tuning in. And thanks to ASCAP and to all these folks. Good night, everybody. The ASCAP Foundation produced this concert.